last Sunday. After the semester break. So I hope you can use the extension I will of each subtopics that you can see here on the PDF. Yeah. So I wouldn't go into that because I want you to understand the concept of each of the items here. All right. So in intellectual property, we're gonna try to understand what is intellectual property, what is copyright law, copy music, solutions, what are the solutions in combating or taking care of intellectual property, free speech issue, free software and issue for software developers. All right, I think I'm going to start recording now. So by definition, what is intellectual property? Intangible creative work, not necessarily the physical form on which it's stored and delivered. So intellectual property is where you can give a legal protections to your intangible creative work in the form of copyright, patent, trademark, or secret law. So when your creative work, intangible creative work, are being protected by this, patents, copyrights, trademarks, or trade secrets. Okay, so meaning that you, the author or the inventor, are given ownership rights over creative works. So, for example, you write a book. Okay, so writing a book, let's say you produce a novel. The novel is an intangible creative work, and then when you have completed your novel, you can ask for copyright. Okay, so that bila you nak jual the book, only you or your publisher can sell the book. Kalau you tak ada publisher, some people write books, dia tak ada publisher tau, dia sendiri tulis, sendiri publish. So only you that can actually sell the books and get money from it. Once the book has copyright, orang lain tak boleh jual that book. Okay, tak boleh photocopy that book. Tak boleh perhaps download the software, the soft copy of the book and share it online. So whoever do that are considered as violating the copyright, violating the copyright. And you sebagai the owner of the copyright of the book, you boleh sue the person who did such things. Okay? So sama juga if your invention ada patent, ada trademark and trade secret laws, the same thing applies. Okay. So far faham
Faham.
Okay, copyright once you apply, bila you dapat protection for 70 years. Okay, maknanya once you copyright your intangible creative work, you are the owner for that creative work for 70 years. Okay, so sebagai pemilik copyright, you can make copies of the works, produce derivative works, distribute copies, perform the work in public, display the work in public. Alright, so beside macam saya bagi tahu novel writing, what are other things, what are other creative things that you can ask for copyrights? Can you suggest that? Sorry? Movie, other than movies? Anybody? Kalau malu nak cakap, you letak kat chat pun boleh. Lagu, yes. Lagu. Music, songs. Lagi, anything else? Anything that perhaps close to you? Arts, yes. Iqbal, art boleh. Copyright kan art. Okay. Food. Okay, food. Are you talking about the food or the recipe of the food? Okay, yes, you can do that. So when we talk about food, yang tu we will talk about it dalam trade secrets. Okay, kalau food dia lebih kepada sesuai kepada trade secrets. Okay, your final year project boleh minta copyright sebab you produce kan. Boleh minta copyright. Kalau you berminat nak minta copyright, you can talk to your supervisor and you guys can apply for it. UITM, we have this one unit that process the applications for copyright. You boleh apply online je. The process dia tak susah, cuma you have to come up with certain documentation sahajalah. Okay. Alright, but the thing is, copyright is a never-ending battling issue. For example, we have come up dengan high quality copying punya machinery or gadgets, okay? And then because of that, kita boleh distribute things in big quantities. Therefore, copyright ni, violation of copyrights senang berlaku. Dan usually I know everyone of us have our own fair share of violating copyrights, kan? Because bila kita use, pirated software atau bila you download or streaming movies yang tak berbayar tu, because it's less expensive and then it's easy to access and things like that. So basically when you are doing that, you are actually committing a crime. Criminal belaka you all ni kan sebenarnya. But that's the actual scenario because of gelak criminal boleh gelak, bagus. Itu gelak yang terasa lah tu kan. Basically it's easy to access, cheaper to access such things daripada beli, right? Even kalau movies kan, kalau you like you go to the movies, go to the TGV, GSC and so on, satu movie je dah berapa belas ringgit kan, or perhaps more depending on what kind of cinema you use, and you can only watch it once, right? And then tapi kalau you streaming, banyak sources kan, banyak sources yang you can get. Of course, perhaps the quality is not as good as you watch in cinema, but you can watch it again and again for zero cost. So that's the challenge of copyright. Tapi because now we are seeing ourselves as user. Imagine you as the creator of the movie. That would give you a different perspective of how important for people to respect copyright. As simple as you buat assignments and then somebody else tiru sebiji-sebiji. Okay, and then orang yang tiru tu pula dapat good grades. So how does it feel? Padahal you yang penat-penat kan, do all the research to produce your assignment. So that's the same concept actually. Producing some things intangible is not easy. It requires research, efforts, time, thinking, repeats sampai you produce something really good. So when somebody just use it without your consent, it hurts and it's unfair for the inventor. Alright, so when learning these subjects, do not see yourself as users, but we as user, we always want something cheap, something easy, something accessible, and easily accessible. But put yourself in the shoes of inventor, then you will see how important is it for us to protect all these intellectual property. Okay, so the history of copyright, sejak bila copyright ni bermula ya. So in 1970, the first US copyright law covered printed material only. Masa tu tak ada digital sangat kan. And then after that ada new technologies like photography, sounds recordings. They added it in the US copyright law. And then kemudian I think yang tu tarikh dia salah, not 1909 kot. Definitions of unauthorized copy form. Dulu-dulu people do not understand about copyright, those such things kan. And then 1960s ada some software and databases receive protection law, copyright law. And then 1992 making copies for personal gains become a felony. 1997 illegal to make copies regardless of financial gain. In 1998, illegal to circumvent copy protection schemes, right? In 1983, in Malaysia, we have intellectual property rights administered by Pejabat Cap Dagangan dan Jamin Hak. Okay. And then in 1990, the ministry restructured and then the office was placed under Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. And then that division was tasked to administer Patents Act, Trademark Act, and Copyright Act. And in 2003, the division was corporatized and known as Intellectual Property Copyright of Malaysia, PHIM, bahasa Melayu dia, Perbadanan Harta Intelek Malaysia. And in 2005, PHIM become my IPO. So macam you guys kan, kalau you want to ask to request to get copyright for your FYP, your item you need, I forgot apa nama baru dia apa ya, nama lama dia Ribu. So Ribu ni will process all of our documents online and then akan proseskan hantar kepada my IPO lah to get the copyrights. Okay. Alright, the next thing under copyright adalah fair use doctrine. Okay. So kalau you all tengok baca definition tu macam panjang tau, tapi I'm going to use the layman terms to explain what is fair use doctrine. So when certain creative work has copyrights, okay, when we want to use it, especially for redistributions or for anything that concerning financial profits, we have to get the permissions of the copyright owner. Akan tetapi, when there's a term which is called fair use doctrine. So fair use doctrine, it actually allows us to use copyrighted material in certain scenario without having to ask from the copyright owner. Okay, tetapi provided you nak guna that copyrighted materials for educational purpose, not for getting profits. Okay, and then the significance, the portion used tu tidak terlalu besar. Alright. So for example, contoh ya, let's say when we have physical classes kat smart classroom nanti. Let's say I want to show a documentary. Let's say documentary tu ada kat Netflix kan. So not all of you ada access to Netflix. So I log into my Netflix account and then I screen that particular documentary dalam kelas. Okay. Am I violating the copyright law of that documentary? What do you guys think? Fair use because? Yes, for educational purpose. Selain itu, selain pada educational purpose, I do not charge you guys to watch that. Okay, let's say I say that, okay, I'm going to show this documentary for class ethics kat smart classroom. But in order for you guys to watch it in the smart classroom, I charge you guys kena bayar berapa ringgit. That would violate the copyright law because I'm using it untuk gain profit. Okay, so that is fair use doctrine. So ini adalah among the famous cases that had happened yang menang sebab menggunakan the fair use doctrine tu lah. Okay, for example, Sony versus Universal City Studio. Pada masa itu 1984 ya, it's a long time ago, tapi the case was very famous and it has been, when we talk about ethics kan, especially in fair use doctrine ni, this is one of the cases that people always highlight sebab sangat famous. Okay, US Supreme Court ruled that non-commercial copying of a movie for viewing at a later time was fair use. Okay, maknanya Universal Studio dia gunakan movie tu untuk di-view again and again. So that is actually fair use. And then the court ruled that copying devices pada masa itu kan guna, kita tak ada like now, pada tu guna tape tu sebesar ni, recording tape, black colour. So to play that tape kita gunakan VCR. Okay, so the brand yang dalam case ni brand Betamax ni, sebab VCR tu it allows us to record as well. Jadi copying devices as VCR tidak di-ban. Okay, sebab initially any copying device tidak boleh digunakan in the case of people making copies and distribute it. Okay. So 1984 Betamax VCR boleh digunakan for individual uses lah. And then next case adalah Sega Enterprise versus Accolade Incorporated. Reverse engineering a complete program in order to produce new creative work was ruled fair use. So basically, if you use a certain portion of a program from other software that has been used to develop another software, if you use certain portion to develop or to produce a new software, that is considered as fair use as well. Okay. Then music, macam you cakap tadi, okay, music also under copyright. Alright. So Napster case ya. Okay. Napster ni, okay. So Napster ni is an audio streaming service provider launched in 1999. So it allows peer-to-peer file sharing software service on digital audio file distributions. Okay, so Napster sangat famous when it started, but over the time dia banyak mengalami legal difficulties over copyright infringement. Right? For example, okay, if you guys have heard of heavy metal band Metallica, okay. So Metallica discovered a demo song of their song titled "I Disappear" being circulated on Napster before it actually being released. So Napster sebab dia peer-to-peer file sharing, right? Anybody can share. Bila you ada digital copy, you boleh share. So ada orang share dekat Napster. And then dah lah diorang belum release lagi. Because it's on Napster, it has been played across radio station dekat US. So Metallica filed a lawsuit against Napster. Kemudian ada lagi case lain, a rapper and a producer, dia juga file a lawsuit against Napster kerana perkara yang sama lah, sebab people share dia punya lagu rap without asking for permissions. So maknanya people do not have to buy his songs. Masa tu zaman CD. People do not have to buy his CD to listen to his song. They just listen to Napster. So of course lah, he lose his profits. The producer lose his profits, kan? So again, Napster kalah kat situ. Again, Madonna pun the same thing. Dia punya single music before it's being distributed dah leak on Napster. So again, Napster kena saman. So that was the case dengan Napster lah. When we talk about copyright infringement of musics. Okay. And then like you guys say, the same thing movies dengan TV program pun sama ya, the same case ya. And then software. Okay. So software ni, we have in US ya, we have Software Information Industry Association. Battle software piracy in US and abroad. Okay. Okay, saya nak tunjuk satu YouTube but perhaps a bit later on lah. Okay, books. Okay, ni pun saya dah cakap tadi. But again kan, when we talk about copying books ya, this is about when we talk about ethical ya. I remember this one kindergarten ya dekat Shah Alam ni. Kindergarten ni is among the most affordable kindergarten lah, to help, you know, low income parents to send their kids to kindergartens. So one of the way for them that allow them to charge low fees ya, yuran yang murah kepada parents ni adalah the teaching materials. Kindergartens kan they have books where kids have to do exercises, colouring lah, writing and so on and so forth. What the school did was to diorang beli the buku, they buy the books and then they run photocopy and give out to the kids. So that's how they can come up with cheaper fees. Okay, the intention is good to help parents, low-income parents, so that their kids have access to education. Tetapi perhaps the method is not quite right. But there's no lawsuit, nothing, but it's something that I know that is happening around us. Okay. Okay, so ini tadi saya cakap pasal Napster tadi kan. So Napster ada banyak cases, so most of the cases dia kalah sebab dia violate copyright lah, ada copyright infringement. Okay. And then next is patent protection. So tadi we talk about copyrights. So now we talk about patent protection. So kalau copyright tadi, it's the protection is for 70 years. Patents is 20 years. Okay, so basically patent ni can be applied to invention. So maknanya kalau you invent something betul-betul new, you can ask for patent. Dan let's say if someone want to produce something based on your products, your invention yang ada patent tu, they have to pay you. Sebab you the owner of the patent of that invention kan, they have to pay you. For example, let's say you you invented something untuk computer, inside of the computer. So perhaps high performing hard disk kan. So if a computer company want to use your invention, they have to pay for your patent. Dan dia boleh gunalah untuk letak dalam dia punya komputer atau laptops. Alright. And then the next one adalah trademark. So trademark adalah kita tengok around us ya. You will never see Apple, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, KFC. You will never see other businesses using the same logo. Kerana this logo adalah trademarks, diprotect di bawah trademarks. Okay. So kalau someday you have a business and you nak make sure that your trademarks is safe, no other businesses using the same logo, same names, you letaklah apply for trademarks. Okay. So kalau macam McDonald, kalau tiba-tiba ada business lain using the same logo, they actually boleh sue that business. Alright. That's how these businesses, they maintain dia punya logo sama sahaja di mana-mana. Okay. And then trade secrets. So this is what I think Amirul tadi sebut pasal food ya. So trade secrets ni adalah information that is highly valuable and considered crucial in the operations of business and other enterprises. So food, kalau you nak protect you punya food daripada being sold by other businesses, so you kena apply for trade secrets lah. That's why again like I said, you takkan jumpa business lain yang boleh produce the same burgers like McDonald's, same chickens like KFC, same drinks like Coca-Cola, because the recipes are being protected under trade secrets. Alright? That's the thing. So these are all the concepts yang penting di dalam intellectual property. Right. So far, boleh faham, boleh differentiate ya?
Boleh.
Boleh faham ke semua orang? Faham. Okay. Thank you Azim. Orang lain faham tak? Alhamdulillah. Thank you guys. Okay, so Malaysia, thank you. Malaysia is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organizations, WIPO, and a signatory to the Paris Conventions and Berne Conventions. So Malaysia juga also is signatory to the Agreement on Trade-Related Aspect Intellectual Property Rights, TRIPS, signed di bawah World Trade Organizations. So basically Malaysia is on board dengan negara-negara lain on protecting intellectual property. Okay, so these are the intellectual property laws that exist. Okay, Patent Act, Trademark Act, Industrial Design Act, Copyright Act, Layout Designs of Integrated Circuits Act, Geographical Indications Act. Okay. So, like we said from the beginning, despite we have all of these intellectual property, copyrights, patents, so on and so forth, but people still violate all this, kan? So there are a few solutions that we try to implement in order to protect intellectual property. For example, dari segi teknologi, certain software ada expiration date encoded. Hardware kita pakai dongle, and then ada copy protection schemes, ada activation features for software, and then ada encryption schemes, digital right management, and so on and so forth. So those are the things that we try to do to protect intellectual property of softwares and technology that being invented. And then some kena subscribe to services. Sebenarnya kan, when you access all the journals daripada library UiTM, PITAR, Perpustakaan Tun Agung Razak, all the journals, all the databases tu sebenarnya kena bayar. Tapi UiTM dah bayar kan, so we as staff and you guys as students can access all these databases and journals for free. Okay, right. And then these are the things that we do lah to protect and also at the same time educate public of the value of intellectual property. Okay, and then ada enforcement, kita ada digital ni US ya, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and banyak tadilah law yang macam kita sebut tadi kan. And then every time when lawsuit being filed, the court takes it seriously, and then kita enforce law dan punish the abusers of the intellectual property. So perhaps Malaysia mungkin tidak seserius, although we have all the acts, tapi mungkin it's not as aggressive as UK, US. Kat sana kalau student copy and paste assignment pun, you all kena punish juga. Actually. Okay. In the past, also I mentioned in the beginning, in the past, there are restrictions on technology yang boleh buat copying, making copies, CD recording devices. Dulu-dulu kan pakai tape kan, tape yang ada 2 lubang tu kan boleh record. DVD recorders, DVD players, MP3 players dulu, these are being banned. But eventually, ia dibenarkan dipakai lah kan, as long as it's being used not to violate intellectual property. Okay, printer, scanner, semua tu things that we can copy kan. But of course, you tak boleh because of the feeling concern of people making copies, kita ban all this. Whereas we need this to do our daily tasks kan, macam printer, scanner, so semua tu kan. Alright. And then this is what kita mention juga, kita ada banyak acts, combined law. Setiap kali ada case-case yang berkaitan on intellectual infringement, the lawyers will study all sorts of law, all sorts of acta to see which actually suits that case. Okay, dia bukan refer kepada satu akta atau law sahaja. Alright. Okay. So ini apa yang saya juga dah sebut juga tadi ni. Right. Okay. So okay, this is free software. Yang ini saya nak highlight tadi ya. So free software atau open source means free from copyright restrictions. Kan? So we can use open source untuk develop another software. Alright. Okay. So ini ada satu case yang interesting. Sekejap ya, saya akan share. Let me stop sharing this one.
Today resolved a decade-old dispute between two American titans of technology. Google and Oracle have been locked in a multi-billion-dollar legal fight with high stakes for investors and future innovation. And today the justices sided with Google. For more on what this all means, we're joined now by our senior Washington reporter, Devin Dwyer, who covers the Supreme Court for us. Devin, break it all down. Explain the case and also how the court ruled.
Yeah, Lindsay, this was dubbed the copyright case of the century, and it really involved Google's copying of 11,000 lines of computer code from Oracle's program called Java, and they used it to develop the Android operating system for smartphones. So something many of us are familiar with. Oracle said Google is guilty of an egregious case of plagiarism. They wanted $9 billion for copying that code. Google, on the other hand, said all of this was purely functional computer code. There was no copyright infringement involved. And today, the Supreme Court, in a 6-2 decision, sided with Google. Justice Breyer wrote for the majority, said Google essentially transformed that code into a new product. Take a look. Here's what he wrote. He said Google copied only what was needed to allow programmers to work in a different computer environment without discarding a portion of familiar programming language. In part, Breyer argued that Google would risk public harm if it was punished for copying that code, since so much of software development in general relies on these building blocks, using other people's code to advance that innovation. And today, the court handed a huge win to Google. Lindsay.
And what's been the reaction to that decision, and what could it mean for consumers?
Well, this is one of the most closely watched cases of the year, believe it or not, both because these are two huge American companies and a lot of people's 401ks, but also because what it means for software development in this country. Oracle blasted the decision, said it's going to hurt competition. It has emboldened a giant, a monopolist. Google, in their terms, here was their statement. They said Google stole Java, that's the code, and spent a decade litigating as only a monopolist can. Of course, several startup companies on the side of Oracle here said, Lindsay, this could really harm startups if all the work they do can simply be copied by big giants like Google. But Google out with a statement this evening saying this is actually a win for consumers and interoperability in computer science. The company says it will benefit developers who like to build on these building blocks of technology. Of course, Google also avoids a huge penalty for copyright infringement, Lindsay.
And a lot of far-reaching implications. Devin Dwyer,
right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the
So basically, in that case, Google being sued by Oracle, saying that they are copying certain coding from Oracle to develop their products. So, but somehow eventually Google win the case. So Oracle kata in their defense, yang kata like Google is a company yang monopolize technology. So they kata that's why this is bad for them to do it. But Google said kalau semua code tak boleh digunakan, even a portion of code tidak boleh digunakan by other parties, the computer science community will suffer sebab everyone has to like develop their own codes from scratch. Startup will suffer. So somehow like Google win. So there's always like two sides of arguments on this. So it's for us to think, to consider which is right or wrong to do. Okay. So basically, we have covered chapter 7. Hold on. Alright, so if you look dekat notes yang saya shared last week, at the very final page ada like mind map, which actually covers the whole chapter of IT ownership, things that you should understand about IT ownership ataupun intellectual property lah. Okay, so of course if we go into deeper, there are more things that yang boleh we go into that, but this macam contohnya macam fingerprint, Spotify, Netflix, ad-supported Pirate Bay is something for you to venture for your additional understanding. Okay, so any question about this chapter?
Tak ada question.
Okay. I hope I actually have simplified this chapter so that you guys can grasp the concept of intellectual properties. Sebab kalau tengok nota tu is all, it can be very technical, some part of it. So I decided to simplify it to help you with the understanding. Alright, so just to share what's going on with UiTM lah, so that you guys know. Saya tahu you all ibarat di dalam gua kan, semua siapkan assignments and FYP, so perhaps you guys tak tahu what's going on with UiTM. So let me share some of the things that you should know and should be proud of. Okay, first thing, or last week, our Naib Chancellor, Datuk Professor Technologies Hajah Roziah Muhammad Jano went to Dubai in order to receive an award for UiTM. So UiTM was awarded with 3G SDGs Championship Award. Bermakna, which means award ni recognize UiTM punya efforts dalam SDG, dan juga UiTM adalah among government body ataupun public university yang mengamalkan good governance dalam pentadbiran universiti. Okay, so this is international level, jadi you all kena berbangga lah dengan UiTM, like we can like actually achieve kejayaan peringkat antarabangsa. Okay, and then also another thing, UiTM di tempat kedua teratas dalam Malaysia dalam THE Impact Ranking. So THE Impact Ranking ni again dia adalah menilai universiti-universiti dalam dia punya inisiatif dalam how do we say, melestarikan SDG. Okay, so maknanya di Malaysia, UiTM universiti kedua terbaik dalam melaksanakan inisiatif untuk mencapai SDG. I know you guys surely tahu SDG dalam kelas special topics. Semua assignment you all being mapped to SDG kan. So, alright. And then, so can see kita ada daripada dalam tim Malaysia 17 atlet datang daripada UiTM. Alright, ada yang menang, ada yang menang gangsa and so on and so forth. So see is UiTM again doing very well dekat Asian level. And then sedikit patah balik kepada bulan Ramadan, this is actually FSKM ya. So FSKM buat program dengan community bersama Aeon Mall, buat bubur lambuk, masak bubur lambuk and distribute kepada pengunjung-pengunjung Aeon Mall Section 13. Dan juga we participate FSKM bersama National Autism Resource Center. Di bawah FSM kita ada National Autism Resource Center. They actually bersama Aeon Mall membawa anak-anak asnaf rumah anak yatim telaga kasih dari Damansara bersama SMF FSKM to shop dekat Aeon untuk membeli keperluan-keperluan hari raya. So alhamdulillah. Alright. So you guys should be proud that UiTM dan FSKM selain pada dia mencipta kejayaan di peringkat antarabangsa, di peringkat Asia, we also we care about our community. Okay. Okay, hold on, saya nak download attendance sebentar. Okay, ada apa-apa soalan? Next week cuti you all. Ke minggu satu lagi Oh, okay, next week cuti. Oleh itu, selamat bercuti, tapi janganlah cuti sangat banyak-banyak sebab you all nak siapkan FYP dan juga assignment kan. So, boleh cuti, ambil break here and there, tapi jangan break 100%, use masa cuti sebab tak ada lecture semua untuk menyiapkan apa-apa kerja yang boleh sebanyak mungkin di samping spending time with your families and friends, ya. Alright, I think that's all from me today. So thank you so much. Let's end the class with Tasbih Kafara and Surah Wal-As. Okay, so kalau tidak ada apa-apa soalan, nanti saya akan update lah kelas selepas semester break tu macam mana, whether we're going to have it physical or not, ya. Saya akan announce kat Microsoft Teams. So, thank you all for coming here today. Have a good break. Okay, you may leave the session. Assalamualaikum.